For those that that don't know your full story, I think it's important that people understand, you had worked there for 8 years, and in your interview with Project Veritas, you had said you were making $260,000 a year with, I believe that included your stock shares.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to walk away from. And when you first went on Project Veritas, they concealed your face and altered your voice. And then how much time was between that and when you came back on to do the disclosure, publicly? About a month, maybe?
Yeah, it was about a month, and I was willing to sort of let everything go. I didn't hit him really hard on the undercover disclosure that I did, behind the mask of anonymity. I didn't really want to. I just wanted to get the word out that, hey, they think of their users as being programmed, and they've sort of elected themselves to program you. And they actually said in their slides that we disclosed, content's generated, media is filtered and aggregated, something, and people like us are programmed. Okay. And then the cycle repeats, right? Those programmed people that are influenced, they then generate new content, and then that's re-ranked and, refiltered, to repeat the cycle.
Right.
And so that was released, and people were like, what the heck? And so senators, they came back and were using that to talk about Google and asking them pointed questions. And that was great. Okay, the cat's been let out of the bag. We didn't have to release everything. Let's hope that change can now take place.
Right.
And so, coming back on the show was always an option, but I put an embargo on the rest of the data and pretty much just went on my way. I was like, I don't want to out myself. I want to get back to work. I'd like to be hired again by a big tech company that's less evil, or not evil at all, preferably.
Right.
And get back to work, right? I got a future ahead of me.
Until
I got outed.
Yeah.
One, I got outed by Google on Twitter, and two, they put their law firm after me, and the law firm started coming after me. And the law firm was the thing that hit first. They sent me a letter. They're like, we demand that we find out that you state, whether you retained our documents, what documents have you retained, and who did you send them to, and can we look at your private laptop, and let's look through all your data backups. We want a response to this letter. So I sat down and I was like, okay, they know what they've done. They've got logs on their servers to know what I accessed, and if they do know who I am, or they have their suspicions, then they're trying to flush out that suspicion right now. And then I realized, well, if they're gonna get at my laptop, then they're going to, use that access to delete these files. And the reason why they want to delete these files is because they're trying to cover up their criminal activity.
Right.
And if I let them, then I'm colluding with them to obstruct justice. Even though an action hasn't happened yet, I know that I'm engaging in a cover-up. And I said, I can't do that. That's wrong. So I took the laptop, I printed out all the pages of the documents, I put it into a giant box, and I sent it to the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., to their antitrust division under Attorney General William Barr. And I replied to Google that, yes, I've retained your documents. I've given it to law enforcement along with the laptop. And so that was sort of the first thing. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe they won't bother me anymore. Well, then what happened is they came out of the woodwork and outed me on Twitter. Some guy calling himself One Snowflake, and he had a picture of a snowflake. This person creates an account. 4 minutes later, he responds to one of my comment threads, but I don't respond back because he's got no followers.
Right.
He waits about 5 days and then says, hey, by the way, Zach, don't you want to change your bio, to indicate that you don't work in big tech anymore, Mr. Leaker? And I went, what the heck?
Wow.
So I sent this to my support network, and one of the people set up a honeypot and got this guy to click the honeypot, and the guy clicked it without any sort of VPN or Tor. So we just captured his real IP address. We're able to reverse geolocate it back to Google, Indiana.
Nice.
So we actually saw the data center that the IP originated from. Like, okay, well, this insider is from Google, so obviously they know who I am. And now they're trying to run like a psyop because they're trying to get me to make a mistake so that they can hit me in court. And, I've talked to lawyers that have been defending some of the other whistleblowers. Google is nasty. They are nasty, 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 nasty. The story of what happened to Kevin Cernacki is so sad. He didn't even go to the media. He just went to the labor boards and of California and the federal one, and gave them like 2,000 documents, and wrote up a 50-page report about how Google was systematically targeting conservatives within their offices. Yeah. And then he got ambushed, got dragged into HR. They grabbed his laptop, they searched it, and then they found out, that once they had all the documents and all the timestamps and all the log activity on his computer, then they filed like criminal lawsuit against him, alleging that he had not gotten the documents legally, but he had in fact hacked into, their networks, which was a complete lie. I mean, Google just did not have good security on their damaging documents. I know this because I had access to them.
Right.
But they tried to say in court, just to destroy this guy, that he was a criminal, and trying to like hang this sword of Damocles over him, saying, if you don't capitulate, we're going to send you to prison. And all this guy did was trying to like blow the whistle in the appropriate way. And he didn't expect to get his finances destroyed. So far, he's spent over $100,000 defending himself because of what Google's doing. So,
wow. And they are dirty. They called a mental health check on you, and SWAT showed up, right?
Right. So after I found out that they knew who I was, then what I realized is that I was now a high value target because I hadn't disclosed to that many people that I had blown the whistle. That meant that if they assassinated me, then it would be a conspiracy theory that I was a whistleblower. And the value of assassinating me would be to prevent the disclosure to the American public of the extensive censorship that Google was running on the population. So I was like, okay, that's a good return on investment for an assassination on me. So I decided that I was going to put myself into a safer position. I called up James O'Keefe from Project Veritas. I told him that that in the event of my untimely death, that the embargo on all the documents dissolves, and he can publish them he can release them to the public.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smart.
I then went to Twitter because I now knew that they were following me, and I posted on Twitter, in the case of my untimely death, all documents become public. And I had this ancient picture of a dragon, the snaky dragon that had its tail wrapped up around a guy, and as his last move, he was stabbing it in the heart. And my message to Google, and so my message to Google was like, hey, you can kill me, but if that happens, then it all goes public. So so I posted that. A few hours later, a mental wellness check gets called on me, and the police first show up at my decoy address, and this wasn't like San Francisco police, this was Richmond police. And they tried to figure out where I was, and they didn't believe my friend that I wasn't at the house, and they kept on pestering, and then they went and sat in their car for like a half hour talking to dispatch, And my friend gives me a call and he's like, yo, man, these people really, really, really want you. And
Yeah.
I was like, do you think they would have arrested me? He's like, oh, I'm sure of it. Like, they definitely wanted to take you in to give you questions surrounding like this wellness check. And so 30 minutes later, I get a doorbell. My doorbell's rung, and then I'm able to look down because I'm on one of the top floors. I'm able to look down and see that there are police at the gate. I'm like, I'm just not going to answer it. Like, that's my right. You don't have to talk to police. So I'm not going to talk to police. Why talk to the police?
Right.
So I just don't go down there. And the gate is situated in such a way that there's a gate, and then there's a door, and then there's a stairwell that goes all the way up to the top. So the police are at the gate ringing the doorbell, and they ring it like a bunch of times. And then somehow they get through the gate. I think the neighbor let them in, and they start pounding on my door, like pound, 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 pound.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, come down, come down. Pow, 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 pow. Hey, Zach, come down. We want to talk to you. But they don't really announce themselves. They just pound on the door.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm just going to let this blow over, right? Like, I know what this can lead to. I knew somebody that got into a bad situation and then called a suicide hotline, and then they came and arrested her and held her for 24 hours and then put her up on a psych evaluation. So I'm like, well, that's the worst case scenario, I think, is, they haul me in for my safety, and then they give me a check by a crooked psychologist that, no matter what I say, he'll just mark it down as crazy. And then if that happens, then I've got a negative psych evaluation, and then they can use that to slander me in court. So the last thing I want to do is go into any part of the system. I want to avoid the system.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I'm just going to hang out. I'm going to let them go away. And then I'm going to get out of here and go to Washington, D.C. or something with some friends in a safe house. Well, the police didn't go away. And what happened is that they saw a bottle of denatured alcohol in a tin can. And a denatured alcohol is used for fire spinning, which is a type of fire dance that they do like at the festival. And my roommate does that all the time. So she just left this, down by the gate. They look at this and they're like, could that be a bomb? Right? Like, it totally wasn't a bomb. It was like a tin can, a large tin can in a brown bag.
Right.
And they're like, gotta be safe, gotta make sure it's not a bomb. So they call in a bomb squad, right? And if they're calling a bomb squad, they need to call the SWAT team, and they need to call the FBI, and then just to make sure that everything's safe, they station police with these with these rifles, sniper rifles. The opposing.
Crazy.
Yeah, and on the opposing buildings. And I don't realize that any of this is really going on. And then they also blocked off from 20th and Valencia all the way to 22nd Valencia and started evacuating everyone.
Wow.
Right? They evacuated the theater right next to me. And I was unaware of this, but I started to get a hint that something could be wrong because there was a helicopter at this time that was flying really close to my house and circling around. But I was thinking, there's no way this is for me. Like, that would be a paranoid conspiracy to think that they had unilaterally escalated to the point that they would call in a helicopter. Like, how would they know that I'm just not home?
Right.
I don't even know if I'm home. I could be at work. They wouldn't just call in a bomb squad for someone that's not answering the door. There's no way this would happen. Well, sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I found out about it because my friend, who they had visited before this, had now arrived in San Francisco going to my house because he had a bad feeling about what was going to go down.
Is he the one who got the pictures of you coming down? Okay.
Yeah, he's the one that got the pictures of me coming down. So he sees this. He sees all the police. He sees everything's shut down. He sees everything's blocked off. He sees that people are on their roofs taking pictures and video trying to figure out, they think that there's some sort of like gunman standoff or something, right? They don't know. Right. So he gives me a call and he's like, yo, man, this is really bad. I was like, what do you mean how bad? He's like, dude, there's cops everywhere. I was like, you're kidding. I was like, it's got to be for somebody else. Like, maybe there was a murder and it just so happened to coincidentally happen next to me, and that's what they're going. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna talk to him. Calls me back. Oh yeah, it's definitely you. They're all waiting for you to come out.
Wow.
Your heart must have been going 100 miles per hour. Mine would have been.
Black helicopters. Ooh.
Yeah,
That's when you know that you've done something.
I was able to look at the helicopter, and it was a news helicopter. So I was like, okay, so it's a news helicopter. You know, in a few years, there'll probably be like drones that will fly up to the window.
Right.
I'm actually surprised
Right.
they don't have the drones at this point, yeah.
But you did go down then and you talked to them.
I didn't want to go down because, like I said, I didn't want to talk to them, and I didn't want to go into a psych evaluation. So
Right.
Google get ammo to claim that I was crazy because some crooked doctors under their payroll. So I'm talking to the police. I'm like, look, like, what do you want? Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you guys. Like, that's my right as a citizen. They're like, yeah, but we've got this wellness check, and we cannot leave until we just ask you 6 questions. And if we ask these 6 questions and we're satisfied with the answers, then that's it. It's going to be over. We're going to complete the process, and we're all going to go home. I was like, you're kidding me. That's all you need to do? They're like, yep. So I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll meet you downstairs at the gate, and we'll just you can see my face. We'll just ask each other, and you can just ask me the questions, and I'll answer them. He's like, okay, that's great. I was like, great. So I think there's a resolution. I go down the stairwell. I approach my door, and then what I realize is that the gates is swung open. There's a pair of handcuffs to prevent the gate from closing back in, and there's 2 bomb robots. One bomb robot already has its arm through the gate, grabbing denatured alcohol to pull it out, and there's a little tiny robot right next to it that's got like a camera, and it's like a high-speed robot.
Oh my God, this must have been so surreal.
And I'm like, there's no way that anyone's going to believe that this happened. So I pull out my camera and I started taking video of these bomb robots in my doorway. And
Smart.
so, thank you. And so I called the police back, and I'm like, okay, look, I'm here. There's some bomb robots. Like, I'll just wait for the bomb robots to leave, and we can have the face-to-face. And they're like, actually, that's not going to work. Actually, we need you to come out, and then we need to take you under detention. Then we'll ask you the questions. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You just made an agreement with me. We just agreed to meet, and now you're not going to meet me. So how can I trust you that you're going to not arrest me and you're not going to haul me in, on a false charge?
Right.
And so he's like, no, you can trust us on this. And I said, no, I can't. So I go away. And I refuse to like do anything more. And then they call me back like, look, we're going to stay here for as long as it takes, until we answer these questions. And there's nothing we can do. We have to ask you out this in the open. So I get frustrated. I was like, okay, that's cool. Well, everyone's filming you. So, if something happens, I'm going to film it myself so that if I do get arrested, then I've got a copy of it, and there's not going to be any of this he said, she said, back and forth. There's going to be recorded footage of everything that's happened. So I agree to come out. I put my jacket on. I come out of the building with my hands up. They give me instructions on, how to turn around and how to put my hands behind my head and walk backwards. And then they grab me. They put my hands, like they hold them behind my back. And then they search every one of my pockets for weapons. Mm-hmm. And then they ask me a bunch of questions, and they're like, well, why would Google call this wellness check on you? And I'm like, because I sent all of their information proving their criminal activity to the Department of Justice. And they're like, do you have a letter that proves that or any sort of proof? I said, yep. I pulled out my phone and I showed them the letter that I had screenshotted and gave it to them to see. And they're like, oh boy. Oh, wow. Oh, so you're a whistleblower. I'm like, yep. And I was like, this is retaliation because I revealed their criminal activity to the DOJ. And they're like, oh, wow, right? So they were all taken aback. They had no idea that I was going to be a whistleblower.
Right.
So at that point, they got really friendly with me, and we were joking, and everything got really cordial. And then, everything started to de-escalate really rapidly after that, and people started to go home. They brought the bomb robots back, and the bomb squad cleared my house, and then, and that was pretty much it. I do want to add that the SFPD and the FBI that were there once they found out like what was going on, actually they were really cordial and professional all the way through. And once they understood what was really happening, then they were really friendly. They were terrific. They're all like really great people. And they told me a little secret. And the secret is that the only realistic cop show that is on TV is Reno 911.
That's funny. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
thank God. I mean, thank God it ended like that. Because, yeah, it could, exactly like you were saying, with taking you into the psych ward, I could see them doing that and that taking a really bad turn. So thank God you got a good group of guys over there.
And let me tell you, I got the heck out of San Francisco. The next morning, I was on an 8 a.m. flight, and I headed directly to a safe location in Washington, D.C., where, they couldn't get to me, because I'm like, well, this is a sanctuary city, so MS-13, which does a lot of contract killing, could get to me, and the city's all bought off. And so I'm like, well, I don't think assassinations are as easy in Washington, D.C., because they've got more of a stake in keeping order and security, and they just don't want people to get whacked in Washington, D.C. Like, no one's going to want to do business in that area.
Right.
So I went there and then started laying down the groundwork, and then it turned out that a bunch of journalists really interested in the story. And so Sarah Carter, who is an independent reporter that contributes to Fox, she got my story down, and she's been doing a lot of reporting on this. The True Pundit guy did a whole story on this and got me on video in a sit down, and really kicked off this whole thing. Like, when Project Veritas released this, then it was Sarah Carter, that sort of put all the attention to Project Veritas.
Yeah. I think didn't she release her report like the night before you went on Project Veritas, I think?
Yeah.